All right. Just to give an idea what things look like a little bit around here, but I'll what happened there? What happened there? All right, we should be okay. We should be okay. Should be okay. All right, so before we get started here, once again from Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, Durham region, Missionary Enterprises, and today we have the USA mug. Nothing in it, not fasting yet. So that's that for that. And this is a continuation of our live streams, videos for key Bible verses. Key Bible verses. Key Bible verses, meaning you need your Bibles, of course. That's a no-brainer. And I think I'm okay here. So today is, what's today? The 18th? March the 18th. March the 18th. Today's a Monday. And yes, Brother Wycliffe. Good morning. It's not morning. It's evening for you and it's afternoon for me. It's 2:27 p.m. here. So, our video number 2, it's number 2. It's part 2. Part 2. Video number 2. Part 2. We're doing a part 2 regarding Revelation 20, chapter 20, verse 12. We're doing a part 2. Yes, we are. And there's a reason for that. There is a reason for that. So let's read again from the New King James and the Amplified. Verse 12. And I saw the dead, great, small and great, standing before God, and books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. In the books. All right? Amplified. I also saw the dead, great and small. They stood before the throne, and books were opened. Then another book was opened, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged, sentenced by what they had done, their whole way of life, feelings and acting, their aims and endeavors in accordance with what was recorded in the books. So a lot of things we said on the first teaching, we're not going to cover that again. All right, you have to listen to the part 1. So when I wrote here these works that will be judged based upon what was written in God's books. Yeah, God has books. Are the works that were done upon the earth. Some good and not some so good. Yet some that were downright evil. Totally evil. And this reminds you of a little bit of 1 Corinthians 3. 13 to 15, don't have time to read. I'll be doing a teaching on this regarding the saints. All right? Because it says here, some of their works are going to be burned up, losing rewards. So obviously God did not approve of those works for the saints. Works of corruption will be a big part of this regarding CEOs, as well as judges, lawyers, politicians, leaders of nations, etc., that did things that were wrong yet were never discovered, or if they were discovered, they were never found to be guilty, but acquitted because of corrupt lawyers, corrupt judges, Yet once in the great white throne, all of these will be brought up to be dealt with great justice and righteousness. And I'm also reminded of Romans 13:3, etc., regarding the place of government towards evil. All right? Don't have time to get into that. These are things we'll look at down the road. I'm just mentioning that. You guys can look at it on your own spare time. And this goes for leaders in the military, law enforcement agencies not doing what they should have been doing. That's what Romans 13:3 is all about, basically. Yeah. God has to judge everything. We need to get that straight. God has to judge everything. Anything and everything that can be judged will be judged. All right? Even things that were judged in a fair manner upon the earth. Yes, they're not all corrupt, but there's a lot of corruption out there. But even things that were judged fair and square, all right, upon the earth, it has to be judged by God, since He judges very differently. Very differently, because God is all-knowing. He's all-seeing, and He's perfect in His knowledge. He's perfect, all right? He's beyond corruption. I mean, corruption is not even, there's not even an aspect, a grain of salt or sand when it comes to God and corruption. It just don't work. There's no corruption in God whatsoever. There's no darkness in God, the Word says. And corruption is part of darkness. I wrote here, even the works of the small, the less significant people will be judged on that grade. Yeah. It's not just the great, it says, the significant, but it's also the small, the less significant, or the insignificant, according to mankind. They need to be judged too. You know? Any and everything that was done with the human body, anything and everything that was done with the human body will be judged. Why? Because the human body was created by God and for God and His works, and not man's works. All right? This human body that I have, we all have one. It's a machine. It's a machine that will either bless or curse. Be a blessing or be a curse. And unfortunately, a big part of humanity have used this machine called the human body to inflict pain and suffering, corruption, misery. Yes, more than good. Yeah, unfortunately. Years ago, I heard a very well-known preacher saying that God did not have little black books. I heard that years ago. I won't mention his name. You guys would know him probably. He's an American preacher, big church, big following. But he said that God did not have little black books. And I think at that time, I believed him. To hold records of your wrongs done, or your wrongdoings. That's what he said. God don't have little black books. At that time I believed him, until I came across these words in verse 12, and books were opened, were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. So if God has books for the heathen, for the lost, I believe that God has books for the saints, because it says that our works will be judged in 1 Corinthians 3. That's the judgment seat of Christ. All right, so I believe there's going to be books there too. But either way, our works are going to be judged. All right, saved and unsaved. Everything that can be judged will be judged by and according to the written word, making man accountable to the written word, the Holy Bible, since He, God, gave His holy word to mankind in written form. This is something. This book here. Now I'm just going to mention 3 verses. Hebrews 4:12, Hebrews 4:12, 2 Timothy 4:2, and especially John 12:48. You know, this book here, this book we call the Holy Bible. This is the Amplified Bible. We're going to be judged by this book. Our works are going to be judged. Our works are going to judge us. We're going to look at that. But everything in this book, we're going to be judged by what's in this book. You know, a lot of Christians, they think when they get to heaven, they're going to have excuses. Well, I was sick. I was broke. I couldn't fulfill my calling because I was sick. I was broke. And Jesus is going to show you Matthew 8:17, by his stripes you were healed. Isaiah 53:5, which is found in Matthew 8:17. He's going to show you 2 Corinthians 8:9, that he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that out of his poverty you might be rich. Yeah, so there's going to be no excuses. All right? And it's the same with the lost. Because it says that it's God's will for all men to be saved. So there's going to be no sinner accusing God. Well, you didn't do anything to save me. No, that's not going to show up on that day. No, because God is going to show them that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, and so many other verses. Yeah, and what he's done for them positionally at the cross. Yeah. And how many times did they reject the gospel throughout their life? God's going to play all that for them. Yeah. So no one's squirming out of anything. All right? Nothing. All right? So I wrote here, very interesting when it says in verse 12 that the dead will be judged according to their own works, which were written in the books, meaning God is not the one that will judge them, but their very own works. Which makes perfect sense, since you get to know someone by their works, by their fruit, by their actions, by their deeds. That's how you get to know a person. Or by the words they speak. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Everything a person stands for shows up in what they do with their time, their money, their energy. All right? You can't hide that. Or you can only hide it for so long. All right? If you're a really good hypocrite. And there's some good ones out there. But eventually their colors show up. Their true colors. That's what we call it, right? So Jesus said it himself, that you will know them by their fruit. That's what he said. Matthew 7:16. As one example, when you come to my house, you will know immediately within a few seconds what I'm all about and what I live and stand for. Oh yeah. Even when it comes to law enforcement agencies, they need to prove you are guilty by finding proof of wrongdoing, also called evidence. As the old saying goes, the proof is in the pudding. Their works will be judged, and when their works are being judged, they will be judged as well based upon those specific works. And this is why God will have books with their works written down. Some works will be worse than others. And final thought here, final point, and I believe that one of the very first works or deed that will condemn the sinner is in their rejection of the gospel. That's what I said. Every time they heard the gospel, whether it's on television, radio, their neighbor, some co-worker, whatever, and they rejected it, whatever, they laughed at it, it's all going to show up on that day. It's all going to show up. So, anyhow, kind of doom and gloom message, but it's reality. And they're not all my verses are not going to be like that, but it's still in there. And we need to come, like I posted today, reality. It's going to catch up. One way or another, reality is going to catch up with all of us, especially in the judgment, the two judgments. So it's time to get ready now. It's time to get ready now. So anyhow, want to thank you once again. 15-minute mark. This is part 2, so it's like basically a half-hour teaching. I went over 15 minutes, I think, the first one. And I don't think I'll be making a part 2 out of this. So thank you once again and for watching, and need to be learning from these things. And so I encourage all of you to learn to walk in the fullness of your sonship by learning to walk in the fullness of the grace of God and of the faith of God, because it is faith that gives access to the grace of God. It is faith that gives access to the grace of God. Shalom and amen.